Hi, my name is Melody, and I'm okay. In 2018, I was diagnosed with severe depression, and it changed everything. Even though I'm the same woman that I was before, I see the world differently. My dream in life is to be a public speaker. And this podcast is a way that I'm getting my voice out in the world. So on here, we're going to talk about mental health and the state of our world and just trying to find ourselves along the way. Your support means the world to me because it's literally making my dreams come true. So I hope that this is a place of healing, and I am so honored to journey with you. Welcome to another podcast. We got a doozy for you today. I have been thinking about this all week and I've wanted to record it a couple times, but I really wanted to let my thoughts percolate. And so here we are, a nice, juicy, fermented, well thought out podcast. What a great way of describing it. So today we're talking about change, and I'm going to mention a few ways that I have changed over the years. I'm going to call people out who think it's okay not to change. And I'm going to encourage people who have changed and are now trying to navigate old relationships with people who knew them how they used to be. And now maybe that relationship is broken because you're being honest about how you're changing and they can't handle it. Or you're in a position where you're hiding who you really are and have become, just to kind of keep that relationship at bay. So I'm going to talk about those three things. And I'm excited. So I'm not going to tell you all the ways that I've changed, just because of some tricky timing. And I assure you that I will spill all the beans, just not right now, but there's a few things that I will say about how I've changed over maybe the past couple years. A big thing that's actually really personal is that a couple years ago, I started training for a half marathon and I lost a lot of weight, and I have always been really insecure about my weight. And I lost it, and like for the first time I felt really good about my body, and then shit hit the fan. I got a little bit into it last episode. I will get into it more in future episodes, but there was a couple years from hell, and one of the ways that I coped was eating, and I gained that weight back. And so that has sucked, seeing change in one way and then change in another way. Another thing was May of 2019, I was planning a wedding. I was supposed to get married. And surprise, surprise, I did not. I am very single now. So that was it was a huge change, getting into a relationship, planning a wedding, and then it was a fucking huge change having that end. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in this episode and in future episodes. You guys are just getting all these little samplers for future episodes. Another thing, I am a diehard feminist. People who know me know that. It used to be a swear word growing up. And now I don't think equality is profane. I, yeah, will die on this hill that uh, women are equal and deserve that and still aren't. And I'm going to fight to the day I die that they're equal. Another thing I'm going to fight till the day I die for is against racism. I was grown up in a mildly to sometimes severely racist context, and I am appalled by that. I'm appalled at some of the things I used to think and I used to say. And although I realized they were influenced from my community, I still thought them and said them. And so I take responsibility for that. I'm disgusted by that. I apologize for that. And I'm now doing everything I can to learn from people of color. Also, to shut the fuck up and just listen. So, there we go. There's more changes, like I said, that are to come. So just get your knickers ready for those episodes. I'm going to be honest and call people out who aren't changing. And I'm actually not talking about these specific opinions like feminism and racism. Although, if you are racist and are taking that to heart, wonderful. I'm not going to oppose that. But if you want kind of a thesis statement, which I would love a thesis statement for this podcast because my mind thinks that way, it's that change is good and necessary for relationships to flourish. What do healthy plants do? They grow. Healthy people, in my opinion, grow and evolve and change. And I'm struggling right now with specifically some old white men who think it's fine to stay in their ways. All of them also happen to be Christians. I'm not saying all Christians are like this. I'm saying the people that I specifically have an issue with right now all have that in common. And I am calling you out because I was raised in a Christian home. I was raised going to church, and there was two things that I can remember being said over and over. One was this word repent. They would say like, repent from your sin. And they would kind of describe that as you're walking in one direction that's bad, and you turn 180 degrees and go in the other direction. That is repentance. That looks like change to me when you're going in one way and you completely change your course of direction. Curious. Another thing they talk about, a fancy word called sanctification, I'm rolling my eyes, is is a process that throughout a Christian's life, you are supposed to become sanctified. So you become a better and better person, basically. You become whatever, there's so many words for it, that you become more like God, more holy. I would say you become kinder, more joyful, more loving, more gentle, more self-controlled, more patient. And it's interesting that I would say that would look like you're becoming more and more holy, a better person. But these people that I have an issue with are actually becoming less kind, less self-controlled, less patient, actually more racist, hoarding more and more money, more sexist. So they're going in the opposite direction. They're camping there and they're saying it's okay to stay here. And when I call them out, because I do, They go, "You're judging me." And they get real offended and real upset. And it's funny when they get offended because they don't like how overly sensitive millennials are for being so you get offended so easily. But when you point out their racism, oh my, do they get offended? So, what's a word for all of this? Hypocrisy? And I'm done with it. I'm done about giving them grace for their racism. I'm done protecting their reputation. I'm done just sitting on the sidelines and I'm calling you out. It's gross. It's what made me leave that whole churchy thing. And I am not having it. And I will not have it on this podcast. I will not have it on this channel. And if you're offended by it, nobody is forcing you to stay. Thank you very much. I can hear my best friend clapping. Whew. Back to refusing to change, how that kills relationships. If this thesis is change is good and necessary for relationships to flourish, you can tell that the opposite of that is refusing to change will kill your relationships. Let's go back to how I was supposed to get married, was planning a whole thing, and then it didn't. Let's give you some context about this. And this is going to show kind of my philosophy of relationships and marriage. So, my partner and I were emotionally really compatible. He was the kindest, most servant-hearted person I had ever known. And people loved our relationship. They really, they said, "This is so awesome, blah, blah, blah." I was always affirmed. We had one really big difference, which was I wanted to live here. And he wasn't sure where he wanted to live, but he just knew it was overseas. And this was hard for us, not knowing where we're going to live. And people would say, yeah, that's actually a really big difference that breaks relationships. And in my mind, I was like, you know what? People change so much. And even I saw over the time we were together, there were times where he wanted to be here more and I wanted to be overseas more. So I was like, everything changes. But my commitment to you is something that I'm choosing is not going to change. So I was giving up my dreams, my family, my location, like everything I had, I was giving up to be like, I'll do whatever it takes to make this work because I love you, I value you, and I'm committed to you before everything else. And the idea of like in sickness and in health, for better or for worse, I was all there. I was like, it doesn't matter how bad it gets, with some exceptions like assault and things like that. I'm here for you. I'm with you. And I was like, but I need to know that you can do that for me because I am not about to be in a relationship where I am doing all the bending. I need us to be equally bending, and I need to know that you're committed to me before everything else because there will be times in our lives where I will need more of you, and there are times in our lives where you will need more of me. And right now, I see that you're needing more of me, so I'm going to do that. But I need to know that you are willing to do the opposite. And we did couples counseling and all these things. We wrestled with this for about 6 months, and he still wasn't able to commit to me in that way. And it was too much, and I broke it off. And if you're in a relationship with somebody who is not willing to sacrifice for you, you need to know that you deserve better. And me ending that relationship, I have no words for how horrific that was. It spiraled me into a depression I didn't know existed. It, for a year, it almost killed me multiple times. It is the farthest thing from easy. I am not giving you any like platitudes like you deserve better, so like leave him and you'll be okay. It's not okay. It's not okay that you aren't being treated equally. And it's not okay that you're in this position where you're like, oh, well, do I go through hell by being in this relationship or do I go through hell by leaving this relationship? I know. I know. It is the very, very worst. I want to hug my old self. I am so fucking proud of her that she said, I don't deserve this. I deserve better and I'm leaving. He wasn't manipulative. He wasn't abusive. He wasn't a jerk. But he was not able or willing or who knows to bend for me. And I knew that that is not life because let's go back. Healthy relationships require people to change. And he wasn't. And so I had to leave. Another example, I really like a TV show called This Is Us. And I watched the season finale of season 3 yesterday. And there's mild spoilers. I won't give names. But if you're like really into it, maybe just skip the next 2 minutes because it's okay. But so I won't use names. But there's kind of 2 relationships at the end that are side by side. One relationship, a partner says, I will never change. And you know where that relationship ended? Well, it ended up ending. It didn't work. Those words, I will never change, are a relationship killer. Another one, they had a really big marriage struggles. And I could relate to it because the wife was saying, our whole relationship, I have always bent to you. And this is the one time I am standing up for myself and I'm not going to bend. And they were like butting heads. And I was watching this being like, this isn't going to work out. And I was on the woman's side, honestly, because I was like, no, like, if that's how you feel, that you have always bent, and one time you're standing up for yourself and he's not doing it, hello, get the fuck out. Like, and yeah, I was really skeptical. But again, here's the big spoiler that they both ended up changing and giving things up for the other person. And they found a way to make it work. I think season 4 is out, so things might have changed from there. But at least at the wrap up of this season, I was so encouraged. And it was more like when people change, you can save marriages. The last example I'm going to give is I work in recovery and I love it. It's right now I work in a residential home for women with drug addiction, mental health struggles, eating disorders, things like that. And I've only been there for about 8 months, so I am not an expert. But let me tell you an observation I have had that's really clear. Is that the residents that have come in knowing, like, ready to work their ass off and ready to change, and especially reach out to staff when they need help, holy shit, they speed through the program. Their like emotional development and it's crazy. And on the flip side, the residents that don't finish the program, that take a lot of work, are really draining, are ones that I would say are blind to how they need to change. And it's a constant battle, and they're constantly pushing back. And even more than that is, and then when they don't reach out, when they need to change, when they don't reach out, they need help, that's just a disservice to them, because they're surrounded 24/7 by people who are there to help them. And I get that it takes a lot to reach out. So it's not me judging them, like, why don't you just reach out? I totally know how fucking hard it is. I just see a pattern that when you can do that, it's huge. And honestly, we don't even accept people into our program who aren't willing to change at all, because it's just not going to work. If you don't want to change, then you're probably not going to. So if you are someone who doesn't want to change, I'm telling you that you need to start grieving the relationships that are going to die or stagnate because of that. Like I said in these examples, my relationship, like this marriage relationship, failed for me. In the movie, this relationship failed. I see over and over people in recovery who are not willing to change. They don't succeed. And you thinking that, like, it's fine that I don't change. Well, like, you're going to keep living. Like, if you have, lots of money and are really comfortable, okay, you can keep living your comfortable life. But know that the relationships that you hold dear, people are either just going to accept how you are and hold you at a distance. So all the relationships you have will start to be shallow. Not all the relationships, but some of them will. Or people are just going to straight up leave. And so my question for people who don't want to change is, what are you afraid of? Because you've changed before. Everybody has. Everybody has. Physically, we've gone from a little child to an adult. We physically change. Our brains develop. We change our minds all the time. So I know that you have changed before. And what's holding you back from growing this time? What are you afraid of? What people think? Because I think everybody has said at one point, oh, don't care what other people think. Like, just do what you think, or be true to yourself, or that you got to do this. Who cares about what others think? Take your advice. What are you afraid of? Because you're already losing relationships. So what more do you have to lose by staying in your camp? Finally, this is an encouragement to people who have changed. Good for you. It takes courage to walk from a comfortable place of knowing into what Brené Brown calls braving the wilderness. To go, like, the familiar into the unknown, the light into the dark, from the jungle to the desert. Because you're going into a place that looks like nobody else is going there, and you don't know who you're going to find. You don't know what kind of monsters are out there. But also, you're starting to feel that home, this place you've grown up in, this thought you've always had, is looking less and less like home and more like a prison. And you're seeing how these walls of this camp that you're in is maybe protecting you, but it's also keeping other people out. And you're starting to peek over the wall, and you're starting to see how these thoughts and opinions are hurting people on the outside. And you're starting to actually tiptoe closer and closer to the gate so you can talk to those people and be with those people. And for those who have done that, good for you. It takes courage and strength. And I think it's the right thing to do. And when you walk out of a camp, you might be rejected by the people inside, depending on where you grew up and what kind of friends you have. Not everybody is like, go for it, become your own person, grow up. We love you and support you no matter what. People will say that with an asterisk, and it's like, except for, like these 5 issues, if you start challenging us on those, then we're gonna excommunicate you. So we're gonna shun you. So know that your old community might and probably already has rejected you. Fuck, that sucks. I think that says more about the community you came from than you and where you're going. And so think about the people that you are going to and this new community that you might find in the desert, because I am still searching for certain communities, but I can tell you that the misfits that I have found from school have been the greatest friends I have ever known, and we're all going through this thing of venturing into becoming our own person together and fighting for the marginalized together, and it is beautiful and far better than the people that I came from. Not that certain people are better than others, but more specifically, I'm talking about this group of people that we read people of color, we like to shut up, we stand up for Indigenous issues, is better than this group of kind of this racist ideology that I came from. That's specifically what I'm talking about. Not their humanity, not their worth, blah, blah, blah. As soon as I said that, I was like, that could be taken wrong. Another thing I want you to think about is, as you're changing, maybe the generation behind you will never be where you're at, but think about how you're changing the next generation. And if you're having kids, or if you're in a teacher or any relationship with children or teens, think about how you're changing their lives with how you have changed. For example, I will never tell my girls or the girls that I mentor that you can't do something because of your gender. When I was in grade 11, I wanted to be a lead pastor. And my parents told me that I was reading the Bible for my own selfish desires by wanting to be a pastor. And I wasn't reading the Bible as it really said, because I'm a woman who wanted to be a pastor. Since then, I am so happy to say that my mom has changed her mind, and we were driving in the car, and out of the blue, she was just like, I've changed my mind. Women can be pastors. And I just wanted to cry. I was like, you go, Mom. That's awesome. But I'm never, ever gonna do that for my kids. I will never tell them that you can't do something because you're a woman. I'll say the opposite. I'll say, fuck, you better do something awesome because you're a woman. You deserve the best. You deserve to be at the top. So I live around Vancouver, and there's this downtown, the downtown east side, that growing up, if you drive there, my parents would lock the doors, and there would be some comments or pitiful remarks or don't look. And I'm not going to do that. I want to pull over and get my kids to get to know the people and have my kids hear Kids on the Block, where people on the streets protect kids. They value children's safety. And show them the humanity to it, and not that you need to be afraid of homelessness. Is these are people, and this is a vibrant community. And I will never endorse racism. And if I ever do something, say something that is unintentionally but still racist, I want my children to see how I do not stand for that. That I will do everything I can to apologize, to make things right, to learn, because as hard as I try, when you grow up in like a racist community, things come up and it's not okay. And so when you hear something or you realize that you've done something wrong, oh God, you need to do everything you can to make that right. And so a quote that Rob Bell says is something like liberation requires disruption, or liberation, like always, liberation results in disruption. Because when we are changing something, when we are trying to free people, turning over a system, breaking off chains, you're gonna rattle the cage and smash some people's ideologies, some people's systems that they've used to make money on oppressing other people. So you're gonna get some pushback, and people's feathers are gonna be ruffled, and relationships might be broken, and that is the cost of liberating people. And I'm seeing that it's worth it. And change isn't clean, it's messy, and it brings up our insecurities. And we go into like protection mode. Yeah, and it's hard and vulnerable. And so worth it. I'm gonna wrap up this podcast with a really encouraging conversation, again, I had with my mom this week, where her and I were talking about change. And I said, Mom, is there anything that you would change about me? And she's like, yes, I wish you called me more. And I just like started crying and I was like, Mom, of course I can call you more. Like, that is so easy. That's the easiest change. Because she's like, it feels like, I'm running after you and I'm pursuing you, and that you like don't want to spend time with me, or that I'm being annoying. And I was like, Mom, I would love to call you more. And I've already noticed just like a shift in our relationship. And it's huge when you have the humility to ask, hey, what would you change about me? Listening to them and then actually doing it, that's huge. I'm just tooting my horn about how humble and fucking awesome I am. So that's, yeah. But, yeah. And I was crying and I was like, Mom, I know what it feels like to pursue somebody so hard and they don't pursue you back. And I'm so sorry that I haven't been doing that. And she's like, it's okay. Like, you weren't running very far. And yeah, I wasn't actively running away from my mom, but yeah. And she wouldn't have said that otherwise. Just like, it doesn't always come up in casual conversation. Hey, I would like you to change this about yourself. We usually wait until it's too late and this problem has become very, very big. So asking your loved ones before it gets big, just, hey, if you could change something about me, what would it be? And that can open up a really big conversation and probably some arguments, probably some hurt feelings, maybe some sleeping on the couch. But let me tell you, holy fuck, it's going to save your relationship. Like, it's going to have those conversations now so you can fix them now versus just letting them brew under the surface until you've practiced this habit for so long that it's a lot harder to change. Ask people now. The time is now. Change, the best time for it is now. So I'm really passionate about this because I've been doing a lot of this. And I feel quite lost because I've left all these old paradigms and I don't know, the new paradigms haven't come yet. Some people call this deconstruction. And I haven't reconstructed yet. I'm still so in the wilderness and I don't know where I'm going. But I do know that this is really good work and the changes that I have made are good. And there's nothing in my life that I have intentionally changed that I regret. So I hope this is encouraging for you. I know so many people in my life, the young adults in my life, are currently navigating. I am becoming my own adult. I'm living on my own. I'm having my relationship. Blah blah blah. Blah. Maybe you're still living at home, like, and single, but still, you are becoming your own person, and you're starting to see that your parents aren't perfect, and they're human, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna adult differently than you have adulted, and there's a bit more equality in the relationship. They're grounding you less, and you're talking to them more about how to do your taxes, literally. So there's some not total equality, but there's some you're seeing eye to eye a bit more. But yeah, now there's some shifts and some changes because you're different. So people are struggling, and I am with you. I will let you know when I have figured this all out. But one thing that I know is that change is good. And when we refuse to change, we kill relationships. So don't do that. Thanks for listening. That's really all I gotta say. Okay. See ya. Bye. See you later. Bye, bye, bye.